now too.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. I think we're ready to start whenever you guys want.
Great. Well, I wanted to thank you, Elhart, for helping to facilitate our presentation today. I do apologize for the last minute cancellation last time due to the audio problems. My name is Rudy Caparis, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at ChlorTainer. This is my 35th year in the chlorine gas industry. Chlorine gas has been the backbone of our family business as far back as I can remember. In the 70s, my dad started a weekly pool service using chlorine gas. And this gave us a tremendous advantage. Not only is the gas the purest form, but it's the least expensive. And over the years, our family business grew to over 100 offices, servicing more than 100,000 pools per week. And when I turned 21, I opened up my first chemical repackaging plant, where we would transfer chlorine from a ton to a smaller cylinder. And about that same time, Santa Clara County passed the Toxic Gas Ordinance, mandating that we'd have to have a room with a scrubber. And this made absolutely no sense to my dad. There wasn't a chance that he was about to enclose an operator in a confined space with chlorine gas. So he went to work and he developed ChlorTainer, not just to protect the operators, but the surrounding communities as well. It's designed to meet and exceed all the fire codes and regulations. When our chlorine supplier saw it for the first time, he thought it was the coolest thing ever. He recommended that we show it to our neighboring municipality. We did, and Santa Cruz bought the first 3. And that was the beginning of TGO Technologies. Since that time, we've trained hundreds of operators nationwide and had to handle and process hazardous chemicals using ChlorTainer. And it's funny, one of the things that I'll almost always hear at a training is an operator will say, "This is so simple. Why didn't I think of it?" And I have to chuckle and agree with them. It is simple. And that's the beauty of ChlorTainer. The simpler things are, the least likely they're going to fail. And over the years, all the sites that have installed ChlorTainer, they all have their own story and reasons why they installed it. None of them were forced to do it. They did it because it makes sense. ChlorTainer does provide that level of safety that's just simply unmatched. Today, John McGee, who is our industrial and international division sales manager, will be doing our presentation. And John has over 27 years of industrial sales experience. At the end of our presentation, John and I will answer any questions that you might have. And we also have a special guest with us today, David Kapchinsky, and he's with Waterworks Engineering, and he's engineered quite a few sites with ChlorTainer, and he'll kind of share some of his experience afterward as well. And with that, John, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Rudy. As Rudy mentioned, I'd been in the industrial market in the commodity chemical business for some time. And I decided I wanted to start my own company, wanted to go out on my own. I began speaking with plant managers and operators about innovative products within their chain of process. The first one that I spoke with was a plant manager of a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility located adjacent to the busy I-10 interstate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They were processing with sulfur dioxide gas outdoors and needed secondary containment. Had one of their cylinders failed, that gas could have been taken down the interstate by the wind, causing a myriad of problems, not to mention the problems it would have caused to the immediate vicinity, the operators and the office space in the area. Little did I know that they were introducing me to ChlorTainer. Had a leak occurred, had a cylinder failed, ChlorTainer would have prevented that because the cylinder is processing within ChlorTainer. Cylinder fails, all that gas is captured within the vessel and processed at a normal rate. So I'd found my product, and I'd made it my goal to bring ChlorTainer into the industrial market, which brings us to today. And what I hope to do in the next 30 minutes or so is communicate to you why we think that ChlorTainer is the safest and best option for leak mitigation, how ChlorTainer works, and talk about the benefits of ChlorTainer. So let's get started. These images are of a few sites that were once basically in the middle of nowhere, processing chlorine in an effort for municipalities, and neighborhoods grew around them. So the municipalities were forced to do something. They were forced to do something to prevent a leak. As you can see, the one on the left, image on the left is now in the middle of a neighborhood. That's a home adjacent to the two ChlorTainers that you see there. The one on the right is basically in my home. This is Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I live. And this is a chlorine station located now in the parking lot of a school and in a neighborhood. At one time, this was out in the middle of nowhere. Municipalities are choosing ChlorTainer to protect the environment, to protect people who live in the surrounding area, and to protect their operators. This is a site in Benicia, California, where you see two ChlorTainers in operation. And the site is very clean. This is a very proud group of operators. And these ChlorTainers are 15 years old, and with minimal maintenance, they can look like this and work as these do, just like they did the day that they were installed 15 years ago. This is a municipality responding to a leak. Superintendents are charged and entrusted with implementing the safest practices to ensure the protection of their operators and the surrounding community. This photo shows a municipality responding to a chemical release. The Chlorine Institute Emergency Repair Kit requires constant practice and training to help ensure the timely repair of a leaking cylinder. Had they been processing with ChlorTainer, an external release would not have occurred, and an operator would not have had to suit up and risk entering into a hazmat situation. All the gas is contained within ChlorTainer and simply put into process at a normal rate. There's no need to respond or report an incident when using ChlorTainer. Chlorine gas has been the disinfectant of choice for decades. The risk associated with an accidental release is why cities nationwide have chosen ChlorTainer to protect their operators and the surrounding community. ChlorTainer eliminates the need for a scrubber, an emergency response team, and a repair kit. There is peace of mind in knowing that you'll never have to alert the community of a mandatory evacuation due to a chemical release. You're going to hear me refer to the Baton Rouge Water Company a few times in this presentation. Baton Rouge Water Company is a privately owned water company in the Baton Rouge area servicing several 100,000 homes and businesses with water. They have over 140 ChlorTainers installed and operating, processing chlorine in this area. About 2 weeks into their first ChlorTainers going online, on a Friday afternoon between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, everybody was getting ready to go home, SCADA notified an operator that a cylinder that was processing chlorine gas within ChlorTainer had failed and was not really sure what he should do. So he contacted Pat Kerr, who's the CEO of the Baton Rouge Water Company, and they requested, what do we do? And Pat said, go home and enjoy your weekend. The reason being is when a cylinder fails within ChlorTainer, all of that gas is prevented from releasing and it's trapped within ChlorTainer. It then is able to process that gas at a normal rate. So they went home. And those operators the following week created an email, sent it to the CEO of the Baton Rouge Water Company and said, should you ever stop processing with ChlorTainer, we'll no longer work here. They felt that comfortable and that much more safe once ChlorTainer was in their chain of process. ChlorTainer provides secondary containment built to ASME standards to prevent and process the maximum release of a failed cylinder. The chlorine cylinder is inserted and processed within ChlorTainer. Each ChlorTainer comes with a loader, scale, and all the components required to operate. In this photo, you can see a ton ChlorTainer here on your right. This is our loader. And here's a 150-pound ChlorTainer. Oh, excuse me. Let me go back to that slide if I could. They're processing the ton cylinder. Once that cylinder is empty, the vacuum regulator will automatically switch over to the 150-pound ChlorTainer. This provides constant chlorination while you're able to replace the empty cylinder and keeps the site below the threshold for RMP requirements since they only have 2,150 pounds on site. In this photo, an operator has already loaded a ton cylinder of chlorine into ChlorTainer, and we're getting ready to process from within the vessel. The rollers that you see here are at a slight slope for easy loading of the cylinder, and the operator just needs to make a simple yoke connection, close the door, and we're ready to process. We've put together a video series on the operation of our ton ChlorTainer. Each segment is broken down by function, and we encourage you to visit our website to view each of them. They're very helpful. Our video series on the 150-pound ChlorTainer is currently in production, and we're about to release that to our website as well.
After the vessel door has been completely closed, make sure the vacuum regulator is set to accept the flow of chlorine from the exterior chlorine supply valve. Make sure the vacuum pressure gauge valve is in the open position, while the pressure check valve is in the closed position with the cap on. Next, open the exterior chlorine supply valve one full turn. Ammonia wick the connection at the exterior chlorine supply valve and vacuum regulator to ensure there are no leaks. ChlorTainer is now operational or on standby. The scale system should now be inspected to ensure proper weight and settings.
This is a close-up shot of the components of ChlorTainer. And next, we're going to talk about how each of these interacts with SCADA. In the event of a failed cylinder within ChlorTainer, the pressure gauge here will indicate pressure, and the pressure switch, which is interconnected, will send a signal to alert the operator via SCADA or an alarm indicator. With many plant operators working remotely due to COVID, SCADA has become more desirable and necessary than ever. ChlorTainer vessels can be connected to several systems such as SCADA, allowing operators to work remotely while getting real-time recordings via their laptop or smartphone. Our FailSafe valve is normally in the closed position, whereby the indicator appears red. When energized using electricity and nitrogen, the indicator will cycle open and turn green as shown. The chlorine sensor is tied into our FailSafe valve. Should a leak be detected outside of ChlorTainer, the sensor will send a signal to our FailSafe and close the FailSafe valve. Since the line is under vacuum, there will be less than 9/1000ths of a pound release. If the plant were to lose power, the FailSafe valve would cycle close and reset open once the power is returned. Both the chlorine sensor and FailSafe valve indicator can be remotely monitored via SCADA. Each ChlorTainer comes equipped with the force flow G2 scale. Unlike other scales, it comes pre-calibrated and installation is very simple. The 4 to 20 milliamp outputs allow real-time chemical status to be viewed from your PLC or computer, and other options include low-level alarm relays and chart recorders. ChlorTainer is a complete system that provides fail-safe protection from any kind of accidental release. With ChlorTainer, you don't need a scrubber or any other mechanical systems. As we talked about earlier, your operators will not be trapped in a confined space with hazardous chemicals. Our technology can be connected to SCADA and other remote monitoring devices. The locking door ensures that your operators only will have access to your cylinders inside of ChlorTainer. If a full ton of chlorine were to release, it could potentially affect a 3-mile radius. ChlorTainer will reduce that area affected by 97%. ChlorTainer is built to ASME code and can produce the maximum pressure produced by a failed cylinder. There isn't a safer option available when you're dealing with toxic chemicals. The passive nature of ChlorTainer ensures that there isn't an opportunity for mechanical failure. For R&P purposes, the EPA will only accept passive technology. Installation is very simple, so simple that most operators can install the ChlorTainer vessels themselves just with the aid of an electrician. ChlorTainer is made in the USA and has a life expectancy of at least 100 years just with minimal maintenance. Half of our ChlorTainer installations have been done by the operators with the aid of an electrician. It simply bolts to the ground using Hilti anchors. ChlorTainer can be installed outside of the chlorination room, and the plumbing can run through the walls to save costs associated with having an engineer design and build a room expansion. The loader and ChlorTainer are designed to be used with just overhead protection to prevent damage from the elements. ChlorTainer vessels are built to last, and your investment is made at the time of purchase. All you need to do is replace the O-ring on the door once a year. Every 5 years, you need to repack the FailSafe ball valve and replace the chlorine transfer hose. It takes about a half an hour of your time, and it costs about $200 annually. Minimal time for maintenance is one of the most appealing aspects, that feedback that we're getting from operators. This site is next to an elementary schoolyard located in Los Angeles, California. As you can see, it is in a very high-risk area. The vast majority of EPA regulations and guidelines originate in California. With ChlorTainer, this site not only met, it exceeded all fire codes and standards. The image on your left is an example of a room where space was tight, so they just ran plumbing through the wall. The fixed loader was installed outside the doors on a concrete pad. We also offer movable loaders, and we can customize the loader to fit whatever you need. The image on the right is a photo of our new electric loader. With pushing and holding a button, you can load and unload a ton cylinder in just minutes. The city of Houston has already installed one, and we're getting some great feedback from that. Here's an example of an outdoor site. You have 3 ChlorTainers in process. You can see back here with fixed loaders in the foreground. The I-beams and safety poles are used for provide ton cylinder storage. On the back side of the loader, here, here, and here, we can install a winch to provide easy extraction of the empty cylinders. ChlorTainer comes in 3 150-pound models. The single 150 is commonly used in conjunction with a ton cylinder, which keeps sites under the 2,500-pound threshold while still providing constant chlorination. The twin 150 provides a capacity to feed 300 pounds of chlorine at one time. The dual ChlorTainer is our most popular of the 150-pound vessels. Once one cylinder is empty, it will automatically switch to the second full cylinder. The horizontal position that we see is strictly for loading and unloading. The ChlorTainer tilts back to a 45-degree angle for processing. All of our 150-pound ChlorTainers come with a tilt switch for added safety to ensure an operator can never lower the vessel while in process, which could damage the vacuum regulator should liquid get inside. Again, this is a quote from Pat Kerr that I mentioned earlier at the Baton Rouge Water Company. They purchased over 140 vessels for 67 sites. We were able to deliver this entire order within 1 year, and most of these sites have already been installed. They're continuing to purchase ChlorTainers for each new pump station being built. Rudy and I are your primary points of contact through the entire process from start to finish. If you have clients you think would be a good fit for ChlorTainer, we'd appreciate the opportunity to provide a presentation to them. We can help with room layouts, quotes, and references upon request. We've just hopefully outlined why ChlorTainer is the best choice for mitigation, explained how ChlorTainer works, and given you some of the benefits of ChlorTainer. We'd really like for you to connect with us on these social media platforms to find updates on regulatory compliance, funding options, and new product launches that will be coming up, such as our dual ton. The feedback from the industrial market on the dual ton is this is going to be our biggest product ever. Now I'd like to introduce you to David Kapchinsky. David, are you available?
I am, John. I was able to join today.
Thank you, David.
I know ChlorTainer likes to invite me to sometimes these presentations. It's because I've worked as a consulting engineer with ChlorTainer on various projects, and just wanted to share you some insights with my fellow consultants out there. One of the things that we've seen is the continued interest in some utilities in using chlorine gas. And I know that I've done my fair share of ultraviolet light systems where we convert over, but there are some systems that remain out there that they like the reliability of chlorine gas. And I'd like to talk about one instance where we worked together. And it was with the city of Phoenix and the city of Scottsdale. They have many systems in Arizona that switch between groundwater and surface water based supply. And unfortunately, the well water systems sit for many months. And we were very excited to switch over at that point in time, our chlorine gas based systems at these remote sites over to on-site generation in the hopes of, helping with safety issues, security issues, amongst various things, because, we were storing chlorine gas at various locations around these cities. Not only that, there were scrubbers. And these scrubbers were hard to maintain, especially at the well sites where we had ton cylinders. And so what happened is we did put in the hypochlorite systems, but unfortunately, anything that sits like that with that kind of equipment, it takes a little bit to get started again. And so we had a lot of trouble. And just to go, long story short, we actually switched back. Once we saw the ChlorTainer solution, we switched back many of these sites back to chlorine gas because of the ability for us to deal with security, because we could lock these systems up and protect the cylinders. The other thing is when we had the issues with the scrubbers, now we had a system that the fire departments allowed us, because it's a completely passive system, to allow us to dispense of the scrubbers and now get chlorine back out there. The benefit to operations was a chlorine gas cylinder is like a light switch. When you want to fire that back up again, a gas system is really quick to fire up. And then I'll close with some of the other benefits, especially as you go into earthquake zones like Washington State, California. The other interest of ChlorTainer to us is seismic. Being able to fix these cylinders in a protected sense, and being able to confidently be able to continue to feed chlorine gas gave us a lot of benefit. So that's some of my key insights that I wanted to share with the group today. And I'll pass it back to you, John.
Thank you, David. We'd like to open up the presentation to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. So unfortunately, my camera is not working here at the office, but I welcome anybody to make any questions.
Yeah, can I ask questions, Ilhard?
Go ahead, Sagib.
Okay. I do have two questions initially. First of all, is there any installation in Texas of this ChlorTainer? Sorry for that. I saw that you mentioned about California, even Louisiana, but I don't know if I missed any Texas installation. And second is that you mentioned that it meets all the IFC codes and EPA codes. I believe that that is those codes that are required to meet, particularly for chlorine buildings when we install the chlorine buildings. But TCEQ, so like I just want to make sure here we deal with Texas Commission on Environmental Quality in Texas. TCEQ, do they have does it meet TCEQ's all requirements too? These are the two questions.
Yes, thank you. We have dozens of ChlorTainers installed in Texas. El Paso has them on all their sites. In fact, we just shipped another order to them. And we've got, at least half a dozen sites for the city of Houston. And in the presentation, you saw the electric loader. That was for Houston. They're the first ones to order that. We've got, if you go to our website, you'll see all the sites online. But just to name a few, we have this in Amarillo, El Paso, San Antonio, Houston. I know I'm forgetting a few of others, but they've been using them for years and everybody really enjoys them. The second part of your question is, yes, they are accepted in Texas and it does comply and meet all the codes and regulations.
Hey, Rudy, I had a question. This is Dennis. One of the big, for a lot of our rural clients and districts, or not super rural, but kind of suburban, the entities that give us the most grief on chemical issues and safety are the fire districts, emergency services districts. So do you know how or if the ChlorTainer alleviates needs? I mean, you mentioned the origination of the whole idea was to prevent needing a scrubber for a building, and we've been forced to put in deluge, irrigation suppression systems, which I'm sure, as you know, is not really a recommended way to deal with chlorine leak. And the lack of knowledge from the fire people that are looking at the fire code, has been a thorn in our side, and we end up with a quote unquote solution that might satisfy them and their interpretation of the fire code, but really doesn't, enhance safety or do anything. So I'm curious if you have any experience dealing with ESDs and fire code issues and how they've been responsive to ChlorTainer.
Yes, and as far as the fire inspections, and they love the system. They can, once they see it, they can appreciate the value that it brings, and just the fact that they're not going to get the call. They don't have to bring in a repair kit, have a hazmat team. For example, in the city of Phoenix, when we'd start up a site, they'd always have a fire inspector out there just reviewing everything as we would do it. That was the only city that did that. But all the other fire departments have all, agree that it is the safest technology. And we've never had a situation where they didn't accept it.
Okay, great. That's going to help us out. We've come up with workaround designs, and like I said, in some cases, they just force us to do goofy, stuff that doesn't enhance safety, just because they're pretty rigid about, in their interpretation of the fire code and what it means for us. So,
and I can send you a copy of the fire codes and how we comply if they ever question it. But
yeah, that might be helpful for us.
Yes.
I guess another question I have is, obviously it's geared around chlorine is kind of built into the name of the product, but do you offer similar or, containment systems for other types of secondary containment chemical feeds like liquid chemical or that sort of thing?
We do. And so for sulfur dioxide and hydrous ammonia, some industrial sites, they're not feeding off a gas on the tons, they're feeding the liquid.
Right.
And so we can set that up as well for a liquid feed, but they have to have some kind of vacuum system for evacuation of the line when they just.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Is there any other questions that we could answer? If anybody would have an interest in seeing a site, I can make arrangements. I don't, I think the closest site, I don't know how, I'm not that familiar with Texas, but we have this in Katy, which I think might be the closest site to Austin.
I think probably the closest might be San Antonio from the places that you mentioned. San Antonio is about an hour, give it or take, depending which part of San Antonio.
In San Antonio, they have kind of an interesting system. I think this is at a wastewater plant. It's called the Micron Pump Station, and they have 4-ton ChlorTainers there.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can, if you'd like to, see a site, I could try to contact them and make arrangements for you to view a ChlorTainer actually online.
Okay, sounds good. We can definitely, I'll test out the interest here. I think, this whole pandemic thing has changed the dynamics of everything. So
It's more difficult.
I'll definitely keep you posted on that.
In the vast majority of sites that we're selling the ChlorTainers to right now, they're all getting USDA funding. There's a ton of grant and funding money out there for this. And so I encourage that you go to our website, look at resources, funding options. And that's been a big benefit.
Okay, excellent. That definitely helps. Any other questions?
So Ilhart, what I'll do is I'll forward over to you the code, how ChlorTainer complies with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll let you distribute it amongst your other engineers.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Great. But once again, I really appreciate everybody taking time out of your schedules to join us today. And I hope we, brought you information on ChlorTainer that you're unaware of, and hopefully you'll start recommending it to your clients.
Sounds good. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the time. I'm glad that we were able to figure this out, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Rudy. John, appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
absolutely. Thank you.
I also will forward this presentation over to you.
Oh, excellent. That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Have a
thanks,
good day.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.